green. Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place. Ready? This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go!
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50 plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate.
We love to argue.
You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go! Let's go! Go! Eagles fans, Birds 365 is in full effect. I'm here with John McMullen, Rick Ciratella from the NFL Draft Bible, and yours truly, I am Tone DeShields II, the producer from behind the scenes at JAKIB Sports and also Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. You guys, first things first, good morning. How are we feeling today?
I'm doing well. How are you guys? Look, it seems like it's night where you are, Tone, at the ocean. It's light where you and I are, Rick. So I don't know what it is, man.
Hey, it's that kind of party.
It's always busy this time of year for me. So I don't know if it's day, night, whatever.
You know what I want to do? I want to give people the different vibes of Ocean Casino, right? You know, you can have fun at Ocean during the daytime. You can have fun at Ocean at nighttime if you're into that nightlife sort of thing. You know, whatever you want to do, Ocean Casino has your vibe. So make sure you guys go check that out as well. But we have a great show for you guys. Now, I know you guys were probably expecting the Mac Man. Mac Man has other obligations. He's getting it done on the other side of things. He's doing some work for WIP. And, you know, we're going to try to hold it down for him, and we're going to try not to botch this thing. But we still have the man, the myth, the legend, John McMullen, and then the good guy from the NFL Draft Bible, the NFL savant, Rick Ciratella, is going to hold us down. So, man, there's so many things to talk about. I think day 2 of training camp is today. Well, day 2 of grass time, right, John?
Yeah, day 2 of open practice, we'll say.
Practice.
They had a walkthrough yesterday that was closed to the media. Yeah, and that's probably the biggest story early in camp, just how little the Eagles are doing. They got 10, I think the number is 10 practices open at the NovaCare complex. And it's a long way from the days of 2.5 hours with Andy Reid. They went 58 minutes on the first practice, and we'll see. And that was a high-intensity practice. That was what Nick Sirianni calls a green practice, Rick Ciratella. So high intensity for 58 minutes. Bang. Get ready.
I'll tell you, man. Well, you know, it's funny that you started there because I saw Sirianni's already making adjustments to the schedule. He replaced 4 practices with 4 walkthroughs.
Yeah.
And the reasoning was he doesn't want to have back-to-back contact practices at all during training camp. And to me, you know, I'm more of an old school guy. I get it. You got the new CBA has kind of created this Club Med atmosphere. But to me, not just with the Eagles, but when I look around the league, when you replace live practices with walkthroughs and these, you've seen those donut tackling dummies.
Yeah.
That's why the tackling around the league, especially at the start of the season, is way down.
Early. Yeah.
Right. And that's, I think, the result of these lack of contact hitting padded practices. And, you know, the other thing is like fans don't realize guys like Johnny Mack are more valuable than ever. I mean, the public gets to attend one practice. Oh, thanks, guys. And now you're saying that you don't even have full training camp access. Is it just 10 practices you'll be allowed to see? Will you see any real live practices, John, or are you just invited to the walkthroughs?
Well, that you know, part of it is collectively bargain, as you mentioned, Rick. So the Eagles could have went 90 minutes on their first practice, and they went 58. You can't wear pads. I mean, you can't wear pads. They pushed that back as well. I think it's day 5, maybe something like that. All of that is collectively bargained, and not an Eagles decision. But there are certain guys, Andy, as I brought up, John Harbaugh, who grew up under Andy as a coach. Those sort of old school guys that are going to use every single minute available to them. Period. End of sentence. The Eagles have gone a different direction. Look, they claim to have these studies that say day 3. They had conditioning on day 1. They had to practice on day 2. They say there's a spike in soft tissue injuries in day 3. Nobody ever provides these studies, but they claim they have these studies, and that's what it says. So they go to a walkthrough, and you mentioned those 4 walkthroughs that Nick has put on the schedule, Rick. Yeah, those are after high intensity practices. So at the NovaCare complex, 10 practices. They are having joint practices, but they'll be in Cleveland, Berea, and Miami. So obviously those would be outside of Philadelphia. Really, I mean, the lightest summer on record in Philadelphia for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Whew, yeah, and you got to go to Miami. I think August 27th and 28th. You can catch some back-to-back practices. But I also think this is kind of a result or a effect from the COVID. Kind of NFL teams realize, like, hey, you know what? Maybe media doesn't need to come into the locker room. Maybe we can cut down their access. Maybe we could just do Zoom interviews. But just going back to the practice length, like I go to training camp practices where teams spend 30 to 40 minutes just on special teams.
Yeah.
So to only have an hour-long practice, to me, well, hey, let's go practice special teams for another half hour, because those are all guys trying to make the roster anyway, and our special teams unit stinks.
Right. Yeah, just fair point. They were outside of Jake Elliott. You could argue the Eagles need improvement in every aspect. People always rip on Aaron Cepas as the punter, but hey, guess what? Their punt coverage was bad as well. Their kick return game was bad. Their punt return game was bad. So there's room for improvement. That's sort of the hidden yardage aspect of it, Rick, in that, the Eagles lost that pretty consistently last year, each and every week. And that's difficult to overcome. Those are, this is a team that likes to say they try to win outside the margins. That's a way to win outside the margins. Nobody ever talks about special teams, as you mentioned. It seems like an afterthought here, and that's what changed from the days. I already brought up Harbaugh once. I'll bring him up again. Very rarely do you rise to prominence as a head coach in this league with your reputation being on special teams. John Harbaugh did it. Dave Bipp, it was very important under Chip Kelly and Doug Peterson. Poor Michael Clay. Yeah, he got, of those 58 minutes, last 10 were on special teams. That was it.
Yeah, this is a very interesting time, right? Like you guys said, the new CBA, this new culture that's building. Rick, I know you mentioned COVID, but the theme throughout what I'm hearing you guys say are analytics. These NFL teams now are leaning on analytics more than ever. You mentioned Sirianni's new practice philosophy with the green days, yellow days, red days, and they even have guys that conclude these studies, and essentially they're using analytics to track engaged frequency of injuries. And even Nick Sirianni said in his press conference, right? He indicated that we're using analytics to track the distance ran of all the position groups. And I have to ask you guys, of course, analytics has its place. The numbers guys need their jobs. Let's make that very clear. The numbers guys need their jobs, but at the same time, where's the line drawn? At what point do we rely on our eyes and our instincts? How do you guys find that balance, especially even you, Rick, in scouting? How do you guys find that balance between the eye test and analytics?
Well, I mean, I think from an evaluation standpoint, to me, it's a guide. It's a tool. It's something else to consider. I will never, ever, ever make a decision solely on analytics. I think if you do, that's where you get hurt. The eye test, I mean, if you've been watching football, that's going to tell you whether a guy can play or not. And, you know, in terms of analytics and telling me how far a guy ran and what his heart rate is, look, you know, I played on teams. We didn't have the most talent, but we were the best conditioned. You want to know what the heart rate is? You go run those guys after practice. You go run the snake drill. Go run a mile after you finish up your practice. And guess what? They'll be playing fresh in the fourth quarter, just like they were in the first quarter. I don't need a computer to tell me that. That's been happening since the start of football. So I get it. I mean, I think analytics too, though, is so susceptible to, all right, well, A.J. Brown caught 90% of the balls in his catch radius. Well, Tone, what your catch radius, what you think someone's catch radius is, might be different than what I think a catch radius is. If it hits your hands, that's a catch radius. But hey, if I could leap and jump, maybe somebody else thinks that's in his catch radius. So I think, you know, analytics, you got to be careful there. And the other thing I don't like is when you're making decisions in game. And I get it. You got all these stats on fourth down. Go ask Brandon Staley. It takes away from the ebb and flow. Like if I'm the coach and I got a headset on, I gotta feel for the game. If I'm a play caller, I gotta feel for the game. Now, all of a sudden, I'm gonna go to the binder like Joe Girardi and go find the stat of what I should do. I mean,
find your Joe. Yeah, find your Joe, Rick. Yeah, I'm you know, I'm more of, you bring up Brandon Staley, like, you know, I find situations, you know, Joe Banner, the Eagles have always been at the forefront of analytics, even if you go back to pre-Howie Roseman. And Joe Banner said something that always stuck with me, and it was, you know, give me something I can use, essentially, when he's talking about all this data. I don't care about the data. Like, where can I have an advantage over another team? It's what I already brought up, winning outside the margins. That's what the Eagles think they're good at. You know, bring me something that gives me an advantage over team X, team Y. That's what the Eagles kind of feel about analytics. There are some coaches, like you said, Rick, you know, if you're at the plus 40-yard line and it's 4th and 1, go for it. You know, go for it. No sort of room for nuance. Or, you know, if you're minus 40, punt the football, no room for nuance. To me, it comes down to, okay, who are you playing? Are they going to score 30 points? Are they better than me on paper? You know, is it Tom Brady? I'm going to have to score touchdowns to beat this team. Then I'm probably going to go, you know, there's nuance to it. If I'm playing a bad team, I'm probably going to back them up and say, like, all right, let's play this way. They're not going to drive 90 yards on me. So I think there's a feel to it. But it's very, very helpful. But as far as where we started this, as far as the safety aspect, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Dr. Arsh Denode is the Eagles chief medical officer. He knows more about these things than I do. I don't have that kind of hubris to say I know more than him. If he says that's the way to go, all right, that's the way to go from a health standpoint. But, you know, one of the things that gets lost in this game, I think, is it's a violent game. It's a physical game. You can't legislate injuries. Guys are going to get hurt. So you have this sort of give and take. Well, yeah, we want to keep everybody as healthy as possible, but we want to prepare, because if we don't win games, we're going to lose our jobs. You know, there's a give and take there. So where's that preparation go? And a lot of people point back to last season. The Eagles blew out Atlanta in week 1 and said, it worked. You know, we didn't have a high stress training camp. Everybody was healthy. We blew out a team that was probably not prepared with a rookie head coach. And they say it worked, and they put a period on it. Yeah, but then you started 2-5. You won, you know, one of your next 6 games. Why are you putting a period on it after week 1? And by the way, in those first 7 games, you were the most penalized team in football. You're telling me that didn't have something to do with not preparing correctly? So I kind of see both sides of that picture.
Yeah, you know, absolutely, because, you know, you brought up a key point, right? You know, having that balance of the marriage of analytics and the eye test, right? Your instincts. because you have to it's a balancing act, especially in live game. You know, Rick, you brought it up. You know, sometimes you can't just rely strictly on the numbers in the game. Sometimes you have to rely on, okay, my guys have been playing with a heart, you know, with a bigger heart today compared to the other guys. You know, analytics don't measure heart. Analytics don't measure, you know, a guy sneezing in the middle of a play, like, you know what I mean? Just random acts of, you know, occurrences in games, right? Analytics can't track everything, but even more, analytics can't track discipline. And this Eagles team lacked a lot of discipline when the season started last year. We were one of the most penalized teams, like you guys said. You know, because we're practicing so much less, because the Eagles are practicing so much less these days, especially. How much of a factor do you guys anticipate that being? Again, we have many new faces on this team, and guys are learning terminology. Guys are learning philosophies. How important will discipline be when the season starts? Because I'm telling you, I've been watching some Detroit Lions practices. Those guys seem very violent right now. Those guys seem like they're chomping at the bits.
Because Deuce, that's Deuce and Dan Campbell. Yeah, so
yeah,
I mean they're going to be as
What
physical. Yeah, they're going to be as physical as they're at least allowed to be. But the discipline thing I think was a little bit overblown early in the season. I know. A shout out to Jody Mack, his love of Derek Barnett. Yeah, I'm more concerned with, all right, I got to get Jordan Davis up to speed. I got to get Grant Calcaterra up to speed. As strange as that sounds for a 6th-round pick, at least you have some time with Nakobe Dean. At least you have some time with Cam Jurgens. Players like that. But and then when you start talking about the free agents who are new to the system, yeah, I mean, there's going to be some growing pains. All right, James Bradbury's a veteran. Does that mean he can just go into a new system? And we always talk about the NFL, Rick, you know, baseball trade deadline's coming up. You can trade for a player and put him in the lineup. He's going to either hit the baseball or he's not going to hit the baseball. You know, there's no chemistry there, sort of mano a mano. In football, there's a big difference going from team to team and scheme to scheme and coach to coach. So that would be my bigger concern with, you know, the lack of preparation time.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the practice time could play a factor there. The good thing, we talked about it on Wednesday's show, is the continuity that they have. They have the same coaching staff back. So I think you can teach, quote unquote, discipline in the film room, you know, film study. Hey, this is what you should do. This is what you shouldn't do. You know, hopefully they're spending more than 4 hours a week in there doing it. And, you know,
well, they spend more time. I mean, that's the positive. They do spend more time in meetings. They do spend more time with walkthroughs. They have more classroom time, for lack of a bit, you know. So where are we in sort of the evolution of football? You know, is the classroom becoming more important than the field? And, you know, you just teach the guys and then say, all right, let them go and see if they can do it. I think we're getting to that point.
Yeah, I mean, the iPad now is a must-carry thing everywhere you go. It's all about
Microsoft Surface. Come on, Rick. Be an NFL guy.
So you mentioned Nakobe Dean. So far, so good. It's only been one day, but rave reviews from the rookie linebacker.
Well, he started on the 3rd team, so I don't know if you're Jody Mack and you're thinking he's going to be in the Pro Bowl. You know, we've had this debate pretty consistently. He's probably brought it up to you. He thinks I don't like Nakobe. It's not that. I just think there's going to be a ramp up here. There's going to be, he's going to, for all the reasons I just said. And they have TJ Edwards, they have Kaiser White, they have Davion Taylor. So, you know, I bring up Calcaterra because they need Calcaterra. They need him. They don't have anything behind Dallas Goedert right now. Your Jack Stoles of the world. You just picked up the Yale kid. Calcaterra showed some nice things. They don't need Nakobe Dean to play week 1. Do you hope he's up to speed? Maybe week 5, week 8. Yeah. But I don't think there's a necessity to get him ready for September 11th in Detroit. And, he started on the 3rd team, and that shows you that they're going to take things slow and see how it goes. And if he's healthy and if he's ready to go, great. If not, at least they have some decent insurance policies, which I think is a positive. Certain other positions, you can't say that.
Yeah,
which is weird, by the way, to say it about linebacker, because we haven't said it about linebacker with the Eagles for years. But TJ's developed into a really good player. And Kaiser White can, he's proven himself at least to be a capable linebacker in this league. So that's better than what the Eagles typically are at linebacker.
Yeah, this is like the first time in a long time where I think the Eagles don't really have to rely too heavily on rookies making an immediate impact, because this team hasn't necessarily, had home runs all the time in free agency or in the draft, or, this roster from top to bottom for the most part, there's really no question about who's going to be the starters. But that linebacker room is one of the more intriguing storylines of the offseason to me. Out of all the groups on the defense, I know the safety position is something people love to talk about as well. With Marcus Epps and Ant Harris and Jaquaski Tart, Kavon Wallace. But that linebacker room intrigues me so much because I think the linebacker position has been undervalued for several years in the NFL. But you watch certain teams, like, for example, the Buccaneers, when they won their Super Bowl against the Chiefs, you saw how vital the linebackers were in that, in that defensive scheme, and those guys being able to keep up with Gronk and giving him a little, well, not Gronk, but giving Travis Kelce a little bit of a hard time. These linebackers these days, they have to continue to make themselves valuable. They have to find a way to become these hybrid guys that are able to run sideline to sideline. I'm curious to know, what are you guys' evaluation of the linebacker position in general in the NFL, and the way the Eagles have approached it and where they are today with it?
Well, I don't know about you, Rick, but I think teams that have, I can't call him Darius anymore, Shaquille Leonard, Bobby Wagner, over the years, you saw Tampa Bay with Devin White and Devontae David, and you have these guys who can run, these true 3-down linebackers. Teams that have them seem to really, really like them and really, really value them. The Eagles want to run, a Vic Fangio-like scheme. Well, all right, let's, hopefully the Kobe Dean could be Roquan Smith, but Roquan's a top 10 pick for a reason. It's interesting. The teams that have gone linebacker at the top of the draft, they've been very, very successful with it over the past few years. And there's other teams that just don't value the position. And, Rick, you have all that experience with the draft. You see that large sort of demarcation line in the league between teams that value the position and teams that don't, really.
Yeah, and I think the middle linebacker position has kind of been devalued in terms of draft, and maybe that's also too a little bit why Dean slipped to the 3rd round. I know the Eagles were thinking about taking him in the 2nd round. They were ecstatic he was still there in the 3rd round. But today's linebacker, as you mentioned, John, they do want, the 2-down thumpers are days of yesteryear, right? They want 3-down backers, leaner guys, maybe borderline body molds that look like safeties. Some of these linebackers that can like in the Kobe Dean, that can cover and drop back if he's asked to do so. So I like the depth of this Eagles linebacker unit. I mean, Hassan Reddick is the stud. But there's some good players here. I mean, Kaiser White, he led the charges and tackles last year. I think Sean Bradley's a guy. Temple Tough is one of my personal favorites, and he might be on the bubble, but I mean that's a guy that can play for me any day of the week. We talk about the intangibles, the intensity, the love for the game. Sean Bradley's a guy who, it might not show up in the stat box, but that guy brings intensity and competitiveness, and that elevates the people around him as well.
Oh yeah, Sean, Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni were talking to us at the podium the other day when Sean Bradley came out to the field, and screaming and hooting and hollering, and couldn't even hear people on microphones. That's how fired up Sean Bradley is. So he can bring that. Hassan Reddick, he's an edge rusher, and that's what. I'm not saying the Eagles aren't going to have him drop into coverage, but when he drops into coverage, it's going to be to try to fool the quarterback. They're not paying him $15 million to be, to be that sort of linebacker that runs sideline to sideline. He's going to be a quarterback hunter. He's going to be a sack guy. He's going to be the edge rusher. So if you look at, again, they're trying to run Vic Fangio's defense, as everyone is, it seems, in the NFL, but or better identified Brandon Staley's version of Vic Fangio's defense. So if you start thinking about how the Bears use Khalil Mack, that's how the Eagles want to use Hassan Reddick. Now he's not that good, but he's a good player. And that's sort of the role they want to use him in. And, part of the thing is, when you see the contract and you say, all right, yeah, he's going after the quarterback. They're not paying a linebacker they're not paying an off-ball linebacker $15 million. It's not what the Eagles do.
Understood. And John, I know you got to get out of here in a few minutes, but I want to leave you with this, right? We spoke about the linebackers and those guys who are kind of like hybrids. The theme of this Eagles defense right now to me is versatility. And one guy that intrigues me, I know Rick loves Sean Bradley, and I'm a Sean Bradley fan as well. But I'm really fascinated about the newcomer, Kyron Johnson, and maybe Rick, you can add some more insight on this guy. I just love his demeanor. I love how self-analytical he is. He's someone who's really in tune with his own game. I got a sense of that in one of his first press conferences with the Eagles when he first got drafted. And his time at Kansas, he didn't really thrive in that off-ball drop back linebacker role. It took him, I think it took about until maybe his second or third season in Kansas to really just take off as that edge rusher. That was where he dominated, right? Kind of had that similar trajectory of a Hassan Reddick. What do you guys think the Eagles' plans are for a guy like Kyron Johnson, someone who's maybe a natural, more athletically gifted, and maybe potentially is a natural edge rusher?
Well, Rick can talk about the pass rushing potential, but he is sort of a backup. He and Patrick Johnson are the backups to Hassan Reddick. So the Eagles are keeping him at that sort of edge rusher, Sam linebacker position, which he, as you mentioned, he did well at Kansas. But right off the bat, we talked about special teams. He's a great special teams player, and that's where he's going to help right away. You want to pray Kyron Johnson doesn't get on the field that much on defense, simply because, not that he can't play, but that means Hassan Reddick's not healthy. So, from that standpoint, defensively, he's a developmental guy, try to get him up to speed in a couple years. But special teams, they need him to help right away. And, he's a 4-4 guy, right, Rick? I mean, he can run. So as a coverage player, he's got a chance to be something special.
Yeah, he's got the traits, no doubt about that. And I think John hit the nail on the head. I mean, you want to develop him to kind of be that in that backup Sam linebacker role and be a special teams contributor. And I know during his time at Kansas, there was a lot of coaching turmoil, a lot of different schemes and systems he had to play through and go through. So maybe not always, playing out of position a little bit there, but special teams is going to be where he earns his money. And yeah, I think Sam Backer is where he's going to make a living.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, you guys, John, we appreciate you so much for making time for us today. We know you have to get down to the Novacare complex and, take some notes and make sure we have a lot to talk about at 7 p.m. tonight on Football 24/7 on JAKIB Sports. Make sure you guys go check out John's work on JAKIBsports.com. He's going to be giving you guys a lot of updates about your Philadelphia Eagles during training camp. He's going to give you guys the inside scoop. He's going to give you guys some insight on some storylines and some narratives that you guys are probably fiending for right now. And that's pretty much it, man. John, once again, we appreciate you. Try to stay cool. Get yourself some Rita's water ice. You know what I mean?
Mango, baby, mango.
Mango. Now, are you a guy that mixes it? Are you a mixer?
No, mango all the way. Mango consistent.
Man, what about you, Rick? Are you a mixer?
I am. It depends on what mood I'm in, but I like a little variety in my life.
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah.
I'm
a bubblegum rainbow kind of guy. My daughter is a big rainbow fan. So.
Slow and steady wins the race. Devin Allen, Olympic hurdler. What does he go with? Mango. Bang. Mango.
As a matter of fact, didn't they have N'Kobe Dean carrying the first tray of Ritas to the kids?
Yeah, you got to. If you're a rookie, you got to carry the Ritas. You got to.
Man. Oh, man, that hazing. But you guys, he's John McMullen. I'm here with Rick Ciratella from the NFL Draft Bible, the newcomer to JAKIBsports.com and JAKIB Sports. We're going to talk about his new show later on in the show. I'm Tone DeShields II. You guys are locked in on Burge 365. Do not turn that dial. Keep it locked.
Go for the poles and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Action News at 11 with Rick Williams. It's the team you trust to bring it all together. The stories that impact your community. A sports roundup for the locals. And the AccuWeather forecast you depend on. Action News at 11 with Rick Williams.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that. Holy shit.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. One free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. So good, it just disappears.
Eagles fans, you're locked in on Birds 365. He's Rick Ciratella. I'm Tone DeShields II, filling in for John McMullen and Jody Mack. You guys are locked in on Birds 365. We appreciate you guys for being here and being loyal supporters to JAKIB Sports. Make sure you guys go check out John McMullen on JAKIBsports.com. Make sure you guys go subscribe to the JAKIB Sports YouTube channel. We have content on there such as you see, Birds 365, Sports Take with Rob Ellis, Barra Brooks, Derek Gunn. We have the National Football Show. We also have the new JAKIB Sports post-game show that's going to be coming up very, very soon with Seth Joyner, Devin Caney, Derek Gunn, Mike Missinelli, a lot of legends on that panel. And then we have Rick Ceratella's new show launching at the end of August. I'm really excited about that one, Rick. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
No, I appreciate it, Tone. And you're looking pretty good there in the A-host seat, by the way, I might say.
Hey, man, I appreciate that. I'm learning from some of the best. I'm learning from some of the best.
Yeah, buddy. Listen, I'm really excited. I started talking to Joey Kraus, a year ago, and we were talking about possibly doing a show last year. I think, timing means a lot in this business, and we didn't force it. But this year, the timing seemed right. We had the proper time to prepare. Now, I got to go. I told you I was enjoying the final days of the Jersey Shore here before we hit the air because I'm going on my training camp tour. And that's a big part of what I do, scouting for the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl, which, if you're not familiar, it's Senior Bowl, East-West Shrine Bowl, NFLPA Bowl. That's what I do. And so I go, anywhere to 50 to 75 campuses throughout the year. I'm going to knock out about 25 school visits in August, come back, launch the football playbook, which Xander, if you're listening, are we, can we say that? Is that official? I need a logo, brother. But, we're going to pump it and crank it and obviously keep an eye on the Eagles. Talk it up with the Eagles. I'll go a little bit more in depth with some of the players and some of the back end roster guys. As you can see, I love undrafted free agents. I love stories of the underdog. I love diving into some of those players that you might not know about. And so we're going to have a lot of guests. We're going to bring you inside the industry. We've got folks like Neil Stratton from Inside the League, who covers the agent and scouting community as good as anybody that I know. I mentioned the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl. We'll sprinkle in Dane Vandernet, the executive director, and talk some college prospects so Eagles fans can know, hey, who are some guys that could be Eagles targets? Who should I be watching on the college football weekends? We'll have Amanda Ruler, who is now a assistant coach with the Seattle Seahawks. I did a show, The State of Football. I ran into a couple health issues. But on my previous show, my listeners will know, Amanda Ruler was a coach trying to be the first female CFL coach because she's from Saskatchewan. Well, she even outdid herself. She winded up getting an internship with the Seahawks, and she's going to come and talk about women in sports because I think, that's something that you're seeing now, even with the Eagles. Almost every organization has a female coach, and I think it's important because there's a whole different element that a female can bring to the coaching room. So we'll get that perspective each week. So many good guests. I saw Baldy on here the other day, good friend of the show. We'll have guys on like Ron Jaworski, Beasley Reese. Really just kind of bringing you behind the scenes of the football world. And that's a little bit about what I do. I'm excited about it. Big shout out to Ocean Casino and Resort. I was hanging out at the gallery with the guys over at Sports Take. What a beautiful facility. And they've been so kind to support the JAKIB Media Network. And now we're expanding that. And I think even Jeff Kerr is going to kick things off at 7, I believe. So from 7 to 7, keep it locked. JAKIB Media, man. It's your new home for Eagles football talk, right?
Oh, yeah, most definitely, man. Like you said, next to every strong man, there's a strong woman. And, the story of the underdog just permeates through the city of Philadelphia. You love the back end roster guys. And, there are guys who even were drafted, in the earlier rounds, right? Maybe second or third round that some people thought maybe went higher than they should, or maybe just because of circumstances, they've been placed in situations in their career for example, like a Jalen Hurts, Carson Wentz, that saga came to a bitter end, and then Jalen Hurts was thrown into the fold, had to take over, and he's really ingratiated himself with the city. He's really taken on that underdog mentality, and it's going to be so interesting to see how you dissect the game. It's going to be really interesting to see how the fans gravitate towards you, because I believe what you bring to the table is that scouting, that in-depth deep dive look into what makes a player tick, and their tendencies, and just the nuances, the details of the game that maybe the average fan may not be keen to, but Birds 365 fans, JAKIB Sports fans are craving that type of content, right? So really looking forward to that. Also, you guys, if I haven't said it yet, we have a stacked show later on. We have Dan Cilio from the National Football Show coming on the program later on at 9:20. So you guys do not want to miss that conversation. Remember, Dan is in LA. He's in California. So the fact that Xander was able to convince Dan to get up at 6 a.m. is beyond me. I still have questions about that. But nonetheless, Dan Cilio will be on the show in the 9 o'clock hour, 9:20 to be exact. Make sure you guys are locked in on that. You do not want to miss that. You guys know how animated Dan gets. Dan gives you the whole meat and potatoes, right? So really excited for that. Keep it locked. Don't turn that dial. Now let's try to push the conversation forward. I mentioned Jalen Hurts, right, being that underdog, and it seemed like he was an underdog from the very beginning, even coming into this NFL. I was tempted to pull his scouting report last night, and in preparation for the show, and it seems as though some of the concerns that people had then still permeate now, and it's still up to him to, I guess, defy those odds. John in his training camp article, he mentioned, Hurts, he made a beautiful back shoulder throw to Quez Watkins. His exact words were, one of the best throws I've ever seen him make in practice or in a game. But he also had a Freudian slip, right? He made a late read to Dallas Goedert, and Marcus Epps undercutted the pass and intercepted the ball. So highs, lows, and day one of open practice, day one of training camp for the Philadelphia Eagles. But his scouting report, again, some of those things are holding true. As far as learning to have to play from the pocket, and going through streaks of poor accuracy, largely due to his mechanics, and just having a delayed reaction to his reads, and just not really pulling the trigger. I have to ask you, right, someone who has his ear and eyes to the league and these young guys as they come in, first, did you have a similar scouting report with Jalen Hurts, when you were evaluating him back then? And do you believe he has an opportunity, or does he have the potential to defy those odds?
Well, first of all, I think he's already defied the odds, because he came in and took a team to the playoffs last year. So, I mean, we're talking about a playoff quarterback. There's only 16 of those in the league, 14 of those in the league. So he's already defied the odds. And as you were talking, if I had my eyes closed and you didn't say Jalen Hurts, I might have thought you were talking about Josh Allen's rookie season, because he had a lot of those same issues, right? He had a mechanic thing. He had an accuracy thing where, he would make some throws that you say, wow, not too many guys walking the planet Earth could do that. Then he'd miss a completely easy throw. And I think that's kind of where you see Jalen Hurts struggles. And we had, I believe, a mid-round grade on him coming out. I can't remember exactly offhand, but some of the concerns were the accuracy, especially accuracy on the move. But to me, the big thing with Jalen, it's about processing and slowing the game down. And so we talked about the continuity. Again, I'll keep driving this home as an underlining theme of great importance, because when you're in the same system, you don't have to think as much. When you're not thinking as much, you let your play progress naturally. And, as he understands the offense better, he can maybe read to those third and fourth progressions. But I think right now, I mean, he ran for over 750 yards. I mean, if Jalen Hurts, in my opinion, is going to be successful this season, he's going to have fewer rushing yards, because, there was a song back in the day, I think Silk the Shocker and Master P, you better duck and run. Okay. Hey, that's what Jalen Hurts is doing. First sign of pressure, he's tucking and running. And so that's, I think, where, he needs to kind of take the next step, be able to hang in there and make the throw and deliver the throw. But you can't hang in there and deliver that throw until you're able to go through your progressions and you're comfortable in the offense. And to me, I'm looking at, somewhere around, I don't know, 3,800 passing yards, another 500 yards rushing, and probably about 30 total touchdowns is a Jalen Hurts season.
Yeah, that sounds about right to me. Some people have been putting their own gauge on what they need to see from Jalen Hurts. Some people have said, I need 4,000 passing yards. I don't know how realistic that is immediately. Some people have said, 30-plus passing touchdowns. People want to see Jalen Hurts take his game from a passing perspective to another level. People already know who he is as a runner. They know he's going to break people down. One of his most electric games was that Saints game where he just continued to break that defense down time and time again, putting up 3 rushing touchdowns in a single game. He also broke the rookie rushing record for the Philadelphia Eagles at quarterback. So Jalen Hurts has already begun to put his name in the history books in Philadelphia. But I think people want to see him put his name in history books in Philadelphia from a passer perspective. And, you only can do that if you let the pill go. You only can do that if you pull the trigger. One of his strengths in college, they considered him to be an efficient passer who doesn't turn the ball over. That may be a strength, but at the same time, in this new NFL, you think about some of even the best quarterbacks. If you look it up, these guys are throwing 12, 13, 14 interceptions. They're fearless. If they see the keyhole, they're going to try to fit it in there. Do you think Jalen Hurts needs to, I guess you'll say, stop pulling his punches? Do you think Jalen Hurts needs to let his hands go? Just to give you a boxing reference, right? He hesitates, and what goes into that? Is it just him not trusting what he sees? Is the game moving too fast? Is it a trust, a chemistry thing? What do you think goes into that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, it goes back to just kind of thinking too much. And the more you play, the more experience. There's nothing better than in-game experience, right? Because then you've come across these scenarios before. You've seen this once before. And we're still in the stage of Jalen Hurts' NFL career where some of these defensive schemes are throwing the kitchen sink at him. And he might be saying, whoa, what's this alignment? Or, hey, man, they really fooled me on that disguised coverage. So, it's growing pains. This is a very young quarterback. I mean, when you take a look at some of the young quarterbacks who've come into the league in terms of development, Jalen Hurts has been outstanding. And it goes to everything that Kyler Murray is getting criticized about right now. And, hey, I know we're going to have Dan Sileo on, Mr. Hot Take himself, later on in the show. I'll give you one right now. If I'm starting a team today, I'll take Jalen Hurts over Kyler Murray. Okay.
Really? Okay. You have to expand on that one, Rick. I need you to,
all day.
A lot of people are going to
all day
hold you to the fire with that. Now, some Eagles fans are going to love you for that. And, I love you for that, right? Because I think Kyler Murray, he's talented, right? But there's something about him I can't fully get behind. But I need you to expand on why you would choose Jalen Hurts to start your franchise over a Kyler Murray who's clearly shown that he may be more talented.
Can't win with it. Can't do it. Won't do it. The old Mike Singletary. And, man, Arizona's really got to be kicking themselves because they had to turn over all this money to a guy who's not committed to the game. That's the bottom line. And the NFL, who was it? I saw Matt Ryan on an interview this morning, actually. And he said, they asked him about the Colts roster. And he said, speaking with Ballard and Frank Wright, the whole emphasis of that team over the last 4 or 5 years is not only finding talented players, but part of the requirement is you got to love the game. And people don't realize how big, it's not the talent level that makes or breaks the guy. It's in between the ears and the heart that makes or break guys at the next level. So if I got to put a clause in your contract that says, hey, we need you to study 4 hours a week when you should be really studying 4 hours a day, I know Jalen Hurts does, that doesn't sit well with me. I know the guy's not committed now. Kyler also, from my understanding, and it's easy to see why, because I've been around both of these guys, he's not really well respected in the locker room.
Really?
Okay? He's really not. So they see the lack of work ethic. They see the Hollywood, it's funny. Kyler Murray, he holds a press conference yesterday, by the way, unannounced. starts the conference by saying, I'm not one to talk about myself, and then spends the next 5 minutes talking about how he's the greatest Texas high school football player, how he won the Heisman Trophy, how he got drafted in the MLB. Well, that's great. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Because you know why? At the end of the season, you folded like a cheap suit 2 years in a row. And
but didn't he have to defend himself, Rick? Just to push back a little bit?
No. You go into the coach's office, you go into the GM's office. Who cares what the media is saying? Let that story die. You just threw gas on the fire, in my opinion. Now, I know people are going to differ with that. Some people like the fact that he came out and didn't let the media dictate the narrative. But to me, it just goes to show Jalen Hurts would never do that because he could care less. His feelings aren't going to get hurt. And I've seen Jalen Hurts. I spent a week with him at the Senior Bowl. This guy was approached by fans, by kids, by coaches, by scouts, by media. And you know what, Tone? Never once was ruffled, never once blew anybody off, never once was agitated. And in fact, he was so poised. I said, man, you cannot make a better leader than what Jalen Hurts is. And he's the first one in, the last one out. That's why A.J. Brown loves this guy. He sees it. He gets it. And I'm going to be out in front of the curve and tell you that, like, Jalen Hurts, I think, is going to have a better season than Kyler Murray. And that, to me, wins is what matters. And Jalen Hurts is going to win, and Kyler Murray is going to lose. So you can have the fun quarterback that looks great and puts up the stats. But at the end of the day, man, I'm about those W's. And to me, Jalen Hurts has the demeanor and the maturity, I think, is the big X factor, the maturity to be a quarterback in the National Football League. I haven't seen that from Kyler Murray.
It's interesting because, they've actually, and I was looking this up last night. I think it was reported by Ian Rappaport from NFL Network. They actually retracted that clause from his contract. Now, I don't know. Clearly the pushback was tremendous, and they just wanted to get out of this media hellstorm. But I actually think they created even more of a ruckus by removing it because they felt the pressure from media, and maybe they felt pressure from Kyler's representation for publicly embarrassing him. What's your thoughts on that?
It's a tough spot, and I don't think we truly know why that clause was in there. Because was it because the guy's lazy, or was it because the Cardinals wanted an insurance policy to get out of that contract? Like, was it a clause that they could terminate that deal if they said, hey, like somebody mentioned, like, when that clause is in the contract, somebody on that coaching staff has to pop over into Kyler's room and hey, Kyler, did you do your 4 hours? That's somebody's job now to make sure, hey, did you do your 4 hours? Because if he doesn't, and they start losing and they're not happy with the on-the-field product, well, did that clause allow them to void the contract? To me, maybe that's why it was in there. I don't know.
Was it bad business to begin with?
Well, I mean, I've never saw a contract structured in that manner. And now there's reports that Kyler Murray didn't know it was in there. Well, if that's the case, that's a poor job on the agent and the player, right? Because, I mean, even if you're having your agent negotiate the deal, you still need to. I mean, I have a lawyer review my contracts. I still read the deal. So, right. So again, he wasn't prepared. He didn't review the materials that he needed to. And to me, I can see both sides of the arguments where I think there was a former player talking about, hey, it's great that Kyler came out and didn't let the media dictate the narrative. But at the end of the day, do you think Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, do you think those guys care what the media narrative is? No, they're going to go to work. They're going to let their play do the talking for them. And could you imagine Jalen Hurts coming out and conducting his own press conference, out of the blue and saying the things that Kyler Murray said? No, because he's a true leader.
It's funny you brought that up, right? Because Jalen Hurts, he's been getting backlash throughout his football career. All his limitations have been put out on the forefront. He's been publicly embarrassed being benched in national championship games and, transferring schools, and people have, constructed their own narratives about him. He's someone who clearly has adjusted and tuned his ears to be able to deal with the heavy vibrations. Kyler Murray, is reacting like someone who's not used to not being on the better side of the media. He's reacting like someone who isn't used to being under the microscope in this way. Like he said, he's been the Texas darling, the Heisman winner. You know, he was drafted in both the MLB and the NFL. You know, he's been the sweetheart. You know, he revitalized Arizona Cardinals football. You know, Kyler Murray clearly is not used to being on this side of things. And when you're not used to something, you tend to react impulsively. You know, you react emotionally. And that's kind of what I got from that. Me personally, it is what it's going to be. I personally wouldn't have gone out and said anything because eventually there's a new news cycle every week. People forget, people move on. There's so much more to talk about. There's always, it's not like you did something quote unquote wrong. It's just an assumption. And it's a clause in your contract that was put in there. Whether you know about it or not, it's a failure on your part for not even knowing it was in there if that's the case. But Jalen Hurts, you know, that you talk about Dan Sileo being Mr. Hot Take. That was the hottest of hot takes because I've been hearing people say Kyler Murray here, Jalen Hurts just right here. You know what I mean? Me personally, like you said, I would take Jalen Hurts because of his mentality. I'm more concerned with someone's makeup, who they are as a person. You know, I want to know, can I go to war with that guy? Will that guy have my back when it's all said and done? When things get dark, when things get hot, when things get shaky, are you going to be the one to keep us leveled? And I think that's something the Philadelphia Eagles have lacked in their quarterback room for a long time. Even in Donovan McNabb, dating all the way back to Donovan McNabb in this era of football in the 21st century. Donovan McNabb, talented, but he never seemed like the leader that you wanted him to be. There always seemed like limitations to how far he can take you just because of his leadership, no matter how talented he was. Carson Wentz, talented guy, but his leadership was always in question. You know, Michael Vick, a guy who was trying to earn back the trust of teams in the NFL because of his past transgressions. You know, it doesn't define him, but the Philadelphia Eagles have been in search of that consummate professional at the quarterback position, and they found it in Jalen Hurts. He just has to bring his production to the same level of his intangibles.
Well, and you know, you mentioned the scrutiny he's been under on basically a daily basis in Philadelphia. And I got news for you. Playing in the Arizona market has masked maybe some of the sensitivity of the Kyler Murray because, you know, maybe he's changed since the Heisman Trophy banquet. But I remember he just left a bad taste in our mouths at the media roundtable session because Kyler talked down to the media as if we didn't know anything, and he knew it all, and he had all the answers, and he really didn't come across well. And I got news for you: if he played in the Philadelphia market, this media would be eating him up. He wouldn't last very long here. And so that's just me. You mentioned, hey, you go on these scouting trails, you talk to the scouts. When they talking to the players, they're trying to get to know the personality, the DNA. Can I work with them? Jalen Hurts is a team leader. Kyler Murray will fold up and go into a shell and be a loner by himself in that locker room. Jalen Hurts is going to embrace folks. He's going to welcome them with open arms, and players are going to look to him because he does have a stoic demeanor. He does command the huddle when he steps into that huddle with 10 other men. He's a leader of men. Kyler Murray is not, and that's what gets it done in the NFL.
Absolutely. Hey, you guys, we're going to take a small break. Dan Sileo will be here at 9:20. You guys are locked in on Birds 365. I'm here with Rick Serritella from the NFL Draft Bible and JAKIB Sports news show, The Playbook. And I am Tone DeShields II from Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. Also, the associate producer for JAKIB Sports. Like I said, you guys are locked in on Birds 365. Keep it locked. Don't turn that dial. We'll be right back.
Go for the polls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Action News at 11 with Rick Williams. It's the team you trust to bring it all together. The stories that impact your community, a sports roundup for the locals, and the AccuWeather forecast you depend on. Action News at 11 with Rick Williams.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. One free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. So good, it just disappears.
Don't you guys just love that song? Birds 365 is back. He's Rick Ciratella. I am Tone DeShields II, the associate producer for JAKIB Sports and the host of Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got to charge it to the game. You guys, I hope you're enjoying the show. Make sure you guys smash that like button. You guys do realize that the like button is currency in this YouTube world. The like button is like water. It's the holy grail of success for JAKIB Sports. And the more you guys smash that like button, the more you guys comment, the more you guys engage, the more people that will be subscribed, the more people that will be in the live chats, the content will continue to get more fire. The heat will continue to rise. You know, the price will continue to go up. So make sure you are locked in on JAKIB Sports, because listen, it's a religion at this point. You might as well get your NFL draft Bible, right?
Hey, trying to keep up with inflation these days, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, we've talked so much about guys like AJ Brown and their impact of what they bring to the table. You know, we've talked about guys like Quez Watkins, the leap he may be able to make, right? You know, we talked about Jalen Hurts, but I feel like someone who's sort of fallen by the wayside, someone who hasn't really been talked about as much as I would like, and that's Devontae Smith. You know, Devontae Smith, he came in last season, you know, being one of the more highly anticipated players that you wanted to keep an eye out for coming out of the draft, you know, winning the Heisman. The first wide receiver to win the Heisman since, was it Desmond Howard, right? From Michigan?
Yeah.
And Devontae has continued to defy the odds throughout his career. He was constantly being told that he was too small, too skinny, wasn't strong enough, and he just allowed his play to do the talking. One of the most refined wide receivers coming out of the draft in a long time, from a route running perspective, from a footwork perspective, just from a discipline perspective. He's someone I consider to be a young veteran. And I have to ask you, Rick, again, you're the draft guy, you're the scout guy. You know, what were your thoughts on Devontae Smith when he first came out? And has he met your expectations? Has he surpassed those expectations? Did he not meet your expectations?
I thought he succeeded my expectations last year to come in as a rookie and make that kind of an impact. I did have my doubts and concerns about the durability issue, and we're through first season. It didn't seem to be a problem last year. We'll see how that holds up over the long term, but I think that really was the only question mark about Devonta Smith was, did he have the frame to hold up with the NFL 17 to 20 plus game schedule? And I think there was one of the draft pit stops. I can't remember if it was the Senior Bowl or the Pro Day, where I think he refused to step on the scale and get weighed. He didn't want to put his weight out there. And, kind of like the Kyler thing, like, hey, just get weighed in, kind of like the Kenny Pickett thing with the hand size, like just get your hand measured and get it over with, and it became a bigger issue probably than what it needed to be, because as you know, with the draft hoopla, especially that final month of April, all we like to do is build players up and then tear them down and find out what's wrong with everything. And to me, I think Devonta Smith has a chance here now in year 2. I think he could lead this team in receiving. I really do, because I think A.J. Brown is going to be the wide receiver 1 on paper that teams will be focused on stopping. And again, it's like, pick your poison. If you double team A.J., well, Devonta Smith's going to have some one-on-one opportunities. That could get dangerous. And you're right. He's kind of like flown under the radar with all the acquisitions and the draft pick splashes and bringing in A.J. Brown. It's like, hey, Devontae Smith, maybe the way he likes it, flying under the radar. But I do know this. Nick Saban raved about his professionalism and his preparation while at Alabama. And I think you are starting to see some of that here.
Yeah, absolutely. Devontae, like I said, he came into the league so polished. He came in and he took on the weight of that wide receiver room. Let's be totally honest. He came in and made an immediate impact, and he showed these guys what it took to be a professional wide receiver. And some of the plays he was making throughout the season were just plays we haven't seen from a wide receiver in Philadelphia in a long time, and it's a shame. Just the finesse, the footwork, the awareness, the situational awareness, the ability to control his body on the sideline. You evaluate these guys. How hard is it to find the traits that Devontae Smith has? How hard is it to locate those type of traits, that skill set in wide receivers? How often do wide receivers even come out being this polished?
He no doubt was a very polished route runner. I think what separates Devonta Smith and what made him a first-round pick and a successful one so far is the natural athleticism and instincts. You see the way he can contort his body or adjust to badly thrown balls and make some catches that you just can't teach, that kind of athleticism or that bend or that agility. And I think that's what makes him special. That's not something that you can go out and practice. And I think, kind of like Justin Jefferson is another guy that's just kind of in this rarefied air. And there's an influx of these young, talented wide receivers.
Justin Jefferson is you can't bring him up in Philly, man. You can't. You just can't. It's taboo.
It's tough.
It's
tough deal.
It's Wolfbane. It's this city will always hold that against Tyree Roseman, not drafting Justin Jefferson and choosing Jalen Reagor, but how we redeemed themselves bringing in Devontae Smith, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you can't hit them all. In fact, people don't realize, like, I say, hey, if you're batting 300 in the draft, it's not only a good batting average in baseball, it's a pretty good draft average. I mean, if you're hitting 40 or 50%, well, then, hey, you're in the top percentage of the league. But really, about 30% of draft picks pan out. And so, I mean, would I have done it? No, but, it's just you win some, you lose some. I think overall, Roseman has done a good job stockpiling talent, stockpiling depth. And if you look at this team on paper, everybody says the roster is loaded. All the question mark is around Hurts, right? And so that seems to be the national consensus, and maybe the local consensus is like, hey, the whole Eagles season depends on Jalen Hurts. And to me, I said this on Wednesday, I truly believe this team constructed in 2022 will be the most talented team assembled around Jalen Hurts on his rookie deal. because you're not going to be able to keep all these guys next year. And then the year after that, Hurts is going to have to get paid. And guess what? You're going to lose some more of these guys, and coaches are going to depart. So to me, like, I hate the guys that say, hey, if they win a playoff game, that'll be a huge success. No, like, you made the playoffs last year. You shouldn't be just looking to take a 1-win step in the playoffs. Like, you're already a playoff team. Well, hey, let's be contenders. Like, why can't we compete with Tampa Bay or Green Bay? I mean, that's the mentality they should be having, in my opinion.
Well, absolutely. And, this team does have the talent. If you do a blind study and don't pay attention to the quarterback position right now, you can say this Philadelphia Eagles team can compete with anybody. But because of Jalen Hurts' reported limitations and things that we have seen, and, we know the things he has to improve on, people are going to always look at the Philadelphia Eagles through a certain lens and put a cap on their success. I really believe the sky is the limit for this season. It's so hard to really project how good this team will really be. I pretty much put this team at about 12 wins on the season. But, again, they have the talent. And a guy like Devontae Smith, I truly anticipate him taking his game to another level. He's someone who gets it done in silence. He's someone who, like I said, he's so polished, so refined, such a professional. I think we've been so concerned about A.J. Brown and Quez Watkins. I don't think we're even ready for what Devontae Smith is going to bring. And, this leads me to another topic that I want to broach with you. DK Metcalf got paid yesterday, and it was a pretty big deal. Not as long of a contract that many people anticipated, but he received a 3-year, $72 million extension with the Seattle Seahawks, $58.2 million guaranteed, and he received a $30 million sign-on bonus, which is the highest ever for a wide receiver. We paid A.J. Brown $25 million a year. That's 4 years, $100 million. These wide receivers are getting paid now. And I know Devontae Smith sees that. And I know Devontae Smith is the team guy. He's the professional. But he's going to want to get taken care of too. And it begs the question, because the salary cap is only going up, because the contracts for these guys are only getting higher and higher, what does a Devontae Smith contract extension actually look like? Because he's eligible in 2024.
Right. Yeah. So, the DK Metcalf contract, the wide receiver contracts are very different in structure. DK Metcalf is front loaded, and he'll have an opportunity to get one more payday before he turns 30 years old. Devonta Smith, when you're looking, and he might want a new deal. I mean, if he goes out and is the number one receiver on this team, he may be looking for a new deal next offseason. And the salary cap is going to rise, and the average contract is going to rise, and he's going to probably want more than AJ Brown by time it's decision time. So again, that leads me to this season, because Jalen Hurts also has to get paid. Is there going to be money to bring back Javon Hargrove? I mean, there's just not going to be enough money to go around here when you're looking down the road long term. And so, hey, if Carson, I saw somebody in the chat room mention Carson Strong, they want to see him perform. And if he can make a roster spot, because it's no guarantee they'll carry 3 quarterbacks, but if he can earn a roster spot and convince the Eagles that he can be their backup, well, maybe Gardner Minshew gets dealt here before the trade deadline for a building block or a piece that kind of puts them over the top. So to me, I'm all in this year. If I'm the Eagles, I'm trying to do it. And that's why we had that Jesse Bates discussion the other day, because typically I probably wouldn't pull the trigger for a Jesse Bates, but I'm in an all-in mentality. I'm in that LA Rams mentality. I want to get it all in this season, because we don't know what tomorrow brings. We don't know what next season and what the dynamics. We might lose 2 coordinators. We could lose a lot of leadership with some of the veteran guys who are going to be departing. So this can be a very different looking team next year. I think you got to capitalize on the momentum. We're coming off a playoff win. We're somewhat under the radar. If you look at the Vegas odds, nobody's paying the Eagles any respect. Everybody's got the Cowboys favored to win the division. Hey, I like the spot they're in, because the pressure, maybe the pressure's here. Like you mentioned, 12 wins. I think it's a double-digit victory team. I see 10 or 11, 12. I don't know. I mean, hey, maybe it's possible, but I don't think anybody nationally is viewing the Eagles as a 12-win team. So I think they're in prime position to kind of go in here with not all these expectations, but at the same time, they're built to win now, and we just need Hurts to kind of take that next step.
Yeah, absolutely. They are built. Like I said, they have the talent, and you AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. You have Miles Sanders back there, who's also looking for a contract. Like I said, these guys are going to get paid. Success begets success, and I have to ask, what's the likelihood of a guy like Howie Roseman having two big contracts at that wide receiver position?
I think that if we're looking at 2024, then AJ Brown might not be on the roster at that point, because I just don't see how you can pay both of those guys. And you've seen it. You saw Dallas run into that situation this year. You saw the Falcons ran into that situation. You saw even the Vikings ran into that situation, getting rid of a talent like Stephon Diggs. I mean, come on. Are you kidding? It's just hard to pay two guys when you commit. Like, if I got to commit $50 million of my salary cap to two players, I mean, that's a big percentage of your team. And if Hurts is your long-term guy, I hate to tell you, you're going to have to lock him up for like 35, 40 million. So now you got three guys that are going to make 100 million. It's just not possible.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's, with the cap going up, you want to believe that it's possible, but at the same time, as the cap goes up, these GMs, they continue to reevaluate, reallocate, and they continue to think, reimagine where they want to put the money. And it'll be interesting to say the least. Before we get Dan here, Dan's going to be here in a few minutes. I want to get one more topic to you as well. This is an interesting season for the quarterback position, not just in the NFL or the NFC, but the NFC East. And three of the four NFC East quarterbacks are essentially connected at the hip. Carson Wentz, former Eagle, Jalen Hurts essentially, took his spot and showed that he was a better leader. And Carson Wentz and Dak Prescott, they were drafted together in the same draft. Carson Wentz, the first-round draft pick. Dak Prescott, I think, was a fourth or fifth-round draft pick. And they've been compared for their entire careers. Dak Prescott has shown that he's the more reliable, the more stable, essentially the more productive quarterback. It is what it is. But Hurts is in a situation where he has to slay a couple dragons in the NFC East. He has to slay the Carson Wentz dragon and put that comparison to bed. He also has to slay the dragon resting in Dallas, Dak Prescott, who's won the division last season. And the Cowboys have pretty much owned the Eagles for the past few games. But I'm asking you, does Hurts have to be the best quarterback in the NFC East in order to win the division?
No, because they have to have the best team. And Dak Prescott, to me, is the best quarterback in this division. It doesn't mean Jalen Hurts can't improve to the Dak Prescott status. Now, again, I'll take Hurts over Wentz because I just believe that Wentz is a little bit too Hollywood. Hurts and Dak are going to be hungrier because they don't have a Super Bowl ring. Granted, Wentz wasn't on the field for it, but he does have a ring. He does have his money. I know he likes to go hunting and duck hunting and spend time out in the woods in the off season. Like, to me, I don't know if Wentz is as committed as Hurts. So I like Hurts to slay that dragon. Where I think it gets interesting is, I'm looking at the Giants, right? Like Brian Dabble, Joe Shane, they're not committed to Daniel Jones. They didn't pick up that 5th-year option. As soon as the 49ers realize they don't have a dance partner to trade with, I could see the Giants scooping up Jimmy Garoppolo and putting him on the back burner. I think their bye week is like week 8 or week 9. To me, scooping up Jimmy G makes all the sense in the world, because I look at the Giants offense too. Like swap out Danny Jones for Jimmy G. Wow. Now I might actually think the Giants can win some games. And I remember when they the year they drafted Eli Manning, they brought in Kurt Warner, and you were like, what the heck are they bringing in Kurt Warner? But I don't know. To me, it's like, why not bring in a Jimmy G on a 1-year deal? Because they're, if Danny Jones doesn't cut it and they got a losing record after, when they hit their bye week, it's like, hey, I'm trying to find a quarterback of the future. If I don't have to spend a draft pick, let me see what Jimmy G's got. And I think it's a huge upgrade. And I would probably put him behind Dak Prescott and ahead of Jalen Hurts at this stage of his career. Let's not forget he was one pass away from winning a Super Bowl, and his winning percentage is incredible in this league. Now, the thing with Jimmy G that rubs people the wrong way, especially his teammates, he's a knick-knack, paddywhack, any little reason not to practice and play, little injuries keep him out. And, that's just what you get with Jimmy G.
Yeah, I honestly believe this NFC East is going to be much more competitive than what people think. I think the Washington Commanders are a bit better than what people think. I think the Dallas Cowboys, even though they have, in my humble opinion, have taken a step back from a roster perspective, from a personnel perspective, they're still the Dallas Cowboys. They still have Dan Quinn as their defensive coordinator. They still have Micah Parsons, Trevon Diggs. They still have CeeDee Lamb, Ezekiel Elliott, who, in my opinion, say what you want about him, he can pop at any moment. It's just one of those things that the Philadelphia Eagles, I fear and I don't think it's going to happen, but I think it's a healthy fear. I fear the Philadelphia Eagles may come into this season with a sleepwalk mentality. They shouldn't, and I don't expect it, but I think it's something to consider because, this schedule is as favorable as it can be. And it would be the Philadelphia Eagles would be remiss if they came into the season thinking that, oh, this is a W, this is a W, this is a W. They have to approach every game as if each team can take their head off. And that's what they have to do, right? They have to approach every game like they're trying to take guys' head off. They need to pound guys into submission. And it starts with this division. Before we talk about Super Bowls or NFC championships, we have to slay the dragons that we have to deal with in our division first, right?
No, it starts in your own backyard, and you got to take care of business in the division. And then, you got to hope that you earn a bye or home field advantage, and then anything's possible. Hey, the Rams or the Bucks get upset. The Packers take a step back. All of a sudden, to me, the Eagles are like the fourth best team in the NFC starting today. So, who outside of the Bucks, Packers, and Rams, who you want to take over the Eagles?
That's an interesting point, and we're going to take a break soon. But that's an interesting point. The Philadelphia Eagles, they have one of the more talented rosters in the NFC, and the NFC. Let's be honest, all the talent, especially at the quarterback position, is in the AFC, right? That's the gauntlet. That's where the Dungeons and the Dragons, rest. You know what I mean? Like those. That's where you have to really earn your paycheck over there. And I think because of the way the NFC is set up, I think that was why Howard Roseman kind of made the moves he made this offseason. He probably looked at it as, we made the playoffs. We're technically ahead of schedule. The NFC has gotten a bit lighter. Hey, let's go all in the season.
Yeah, why not? And they've got draft equity too next year to kind of add some more pieces if they have to and lose some of those veterans that we talked about. And, the other thing, one more topic here, if we can get it in, shout out to all the chat room people. I see you over there. The chat room's going crazy about Jalen Reagor, who I don't think Reagor should even be on this roster to me. Now, Roseman, he's got a decision to make because do you let ego get in the way? He's a wide receiver 5 at best on this roster. How many teams around the league keep a wide receiver that really doesn't bring much to special teams? Yeah, he returns kicks, but he's not a reliable guy. To me, Brenton Covey is the best returner on this team. I'll take that guy. I don't think you got to make roster decisions based on where a guy was drafted. When you do that, you let your ego get in the way. I get it. I understand it. You picked them in the first round for a reason. You saw something there that you like. It just hasn't panned out. Sometimes you got to just admit your losses, cut your losses, and move on. I think that's what they need to do here.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. I agree with you. And look, you guys, we're going to take a break. We're still trying to ping up our guy, Dan Cilio. Remember, he's in California, so we want to make sure we're all on the same timeline. But, we're going to continue to give you guys that hot fire. We're going to still continue to feed you guys, the fans of JAKIB Sports and Burgers 365. Make sure you guys keep it locked. He's Rick Ciratella. I'm Tone DeShields II. You're locked in on Burgers 365. Don't change that dial and stay in your seats. We'll be right back.
Go for the pulse. and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Action News at 11 with Rick Williams. It's the team you trust to bring it all together. The stories that impact your community. A sports roundup for the locals. And the AccuWeather forecast you depend on. Action News at 11 with Rick Williams.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. One free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. So good, it just disappears.
Eagles fans, you are tuned in to Bird 365. He's Rick Saratella. I'm Tone DeShields II. We are filling in for John McMullen, who's covering training camp right now for JAKIB Sports and the Philadelphia Eagles. And we're also filling in for Jody Mack. Jody Mack has some other obligations that he needed to attend to, and we're going to do our best to give you guys our best impression of the Birds 365 guys. So, you know, as we wait patiently for Dan Sileo, again, you guys, he's in California time, man. You know, I don't want to put too much pressure on that guy. You know what I mean? He does a lot for us. But, you know, as we wait for Dan Sileo, and that's if he's able to make it through.
He's got his stateside vodka glass. He's having a little screwdriver maybe before the show.
Exactly. Shout out to Dan Sileo, man. You know, we're trying to pull some things behind the scenes. You know, Dan's on a whole other time zone, you guys. You know, when he does his 3 p.m. show Eastern time, it's like 12 o'clock or 11 o'clock where he is. So, you know, let's give him a break, and you know, we'll try to hold you guys down with some more content. You know,
he's out in sunny San Diego, I believe, though, so it ain't too bad. I mean, I'm gonna have to hit him up. I get out to San Diego. It's a fun little city. Before we dive into this next segment, too, I mean,
for sure,
you got props from me before we hit the air. You got props from Johnny Mack while we're on the air. Now you're getting props in the chat room. Like, tell the people at home how far ahead of the curve you are with the Hurt season hat.
Oh man, so you know, it's so funny you brought it up, Rick, because my shout out to first things first. Shout out to my man Lord Brunson. Any Eagles fan in the city of Philadelphia or all over the world, if you're locked in on the Philadelphia Eagles, 9 times out of 10 you're locked in on Lord Brunson. And Lord Brunson has been covering the Philadelphia Eagles for the past 4 or 5 years, something like that. And you know, he's just been constantly grinding, and he's one of the most respected content creators when it comes to this Philadelphia Eagles thing, and he has merch. So He came up with this merch. The moment Hurts became the starting quarterback, he came up with this merch line, in full support of Jalen Hurts, the Hurts season hats. He has snapbacks, he has the dad hats, he has the bucket hats, white letters, green letters, he has whatever you need, he has it. Also shout out to the print champs in Maryland. He goes through those guys, he goes through those guys. And if you want your official Hurts season hats, hit up my man Lord Brunson on Twitter, whatever you got to do. The links are in his bio. Man, like the moment AJ Brown wore this hat, it went mainstream all over the place. Everyone's screaming Hurts season. And I've been ahead of this curve since the beginning of last season. So the real Eagles fans know. So shout out to my man Lord Brunson once again, man. Lord Brunson,
big shout out,
Brunson, man.
And if he's listening, Lord, we need a clothing sponsor for the football playbook. Feel free to send the merch over here to the Jersey Shore, brother.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. Shout out to Lord Brunson once again. So, Rick, let's discuss this schedule because, again, I personally feel that as favorable as this Eagles schedule is, there are some games that are potential trap games. I know some people don't really like to buy into that philosophy, but sometimes it is what it is. There are some games that you go into that you're supposed to win, but sometimes you just can't get it done. So we have time. We have about 30 minutes left in the show, man, and let's try to get through as much of the schedule as we possibly can, and then give some insight. So, let's start with week 1, right? The Detroit Lions on the road for the Philadelphia Eagles. What's your thoughts on that matchup?
I know Jody Mack is laying the points. I know that he's convinced it's going to be a blowout victory, double digits. I'm not so sure. I mean, I like what Detroit is building. They covered, I think, the spread for most of the games last year. They were in a lot of games. They didn't put a lot of W's on the board, but they have that competitiveness. They improved their roster. I think the Lions are going to take a step forward. It might not show up in the win column, but they're going to be a better team. I think the Eagles do pull out this game on the road week 1. I don't think it's going to be easy. And I don't know. I'm sure there's a line out there. I'm guessing it might be somewhere around 4.5. I mean, I don't think the Eagles win this game by more than 6 points. I think it's going to be something like 24-20 Eagles victory.
Yeah, I'm actually with you on that. I think this game is something not to take lightly. We smacked Detroit last season, so they're definitely coming for revenge. And that Detroit team, like you said, Dan Campbell was building something over there. Those players are buying into whatever he's selling. And, I've just been watching some of their training camp footage, and I don't know. There's something brewing in Detroit. I love what they're doing on offense. I love their weapons, right? Jamison Williams, DJ Chark. I forget who else they have over there. They have TJ Hawkinson, right, at tight end.
I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, yes, someone who had a really good season.
DeAndre Swift,
guy. Yeah. Yes. And don't they have Damian Williams or something like that? Or am I wrong?
I don't know if they picked up Damian Williams, but they have some playmakers there. St. Brown is a guy to watch. But yeah, I think Detroit, and aren't they also on Hard Knocks this year? I think
that's
are. Gonna be fun. That's going to be fun.
They are. Yes. So yep. I'm sorry. They have Jamal Williams, not Damian Williams.
Jamal Williams.
Okay. Jamal Williams. Yeah. So
that's a nice ad, though. That's a great. Yeah. That's a great pickup.
Definitely. And then on top of that, they brought in Aiden Hutchinson. On the D line. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the Philadelphia Eagles fare week 1 with this new roster. Of course, we're going to see some growing pains. That's most definitely to be expected. I think week 1 is always an ugly week for teams. It's either you see a lot of blowouts or you see a lot of ugly games. And I think this is going to be one of those ugly games. I think the Eagles do pull out the victory, but I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be a little bit higher scoring than that. I think the score may be, because the spread is only like 3.5, I think, right now. So I got the Eagles winning that game 27-24, something like that. I just expect some growing pains on that defense and guys just trying to, get things in order. And sometimes the offense is always a little ahead of the defense anyway.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you see breakdowns in that week 1. So, I mean, I'm looking at week 2. I think could also be very high scoring. Minnesota, Monday Night Football. To me, this is another W. Kirk Cousins has always been fugazi in my book. I don't really see him as a top signal caller. And, I'll never bet on Kirk Cousins, actually, to be honest with you.
He's productive, but can't get it done when it matters, right?
Yeah, no, I don't like that.
So I assume you see that as a win for us.
I do. I see the Vikings game at home, Monday Night Football. Lincoln Financial is going to be rocking. I think that's Eagles all the way for me.
I agree with you, man. And it's going to be interesting to see the storylines. When Justin Jefferson comes to the city. I think this is his first time playing in Philadelphia since he's been drafted. So all eyes are going to be on him. All eyes are going to be on Jalen Reagor and that wide receiver core. It's going to be interesting to say the least. So the Eagles need to have a win, and it'll be even better if Darius Slay and or Bradbury can shut down Justin Jefferson. Not sure how likely it is because guys like that they get their numbers. You just got to make it hard. But that's going to be an interesting game to watch. I have that as a win as well. So far we have the Eagles 2-0. Let's transition to week 3. This is where things get interesting for me. The Washington Commanders on the road. Philadelphia Eagles go to FedEx Field, that dumpster, and we have to play Carson Wentz and those guys. And that defense is going to be healthy this go around. You're not going to see as many COVID-related situations like we did last season with those guys. I'll be honest. I have us losing week 3 on the road. It's something about that matchup at that time. I think we start the season 2-1.
I'm going to agree with you because I think they're going to sweep the Giants if Daniel Jones is the quarterback. I think they're going to split with the Cowboys, and I think ultimately they do split with the Commanders. So, this is the first division game on the road at Washington. I will say Daniel Snyder, 11-hour testimony in front of Congress. Oh, by the way, yesterday or 2 days ago.
I heard about that, man.
What comes out of that remains to be seen. Is there going to be a bunch of turmoil and headlines come week 3 when they go to Washington? That might be an X factor to keep an eye on. But as we sit here today, I think they're going to split with Washington. So I'll split up the home games. I say the Eagles win later on in the year at home. I think they lose on the road at Washington and sitting at 2-1. I agree with you, Tom.
Yeah, most definitely. Let's jump down to week 4. Jacksonville.
Trap.
We have them at home. That's a trap.
Yeah,
that's a trap. I think I still have us winning that game though. But it's one of those games that if someone wakes up on the wrong side of the bed at any point, that game can really just get out of hand. I don't think Jacksonville is going to blow us out, but I think that's a game that we have to pay close attention to. Dougie P makes his return to Philadelphia. He's going to get cheers for bringing that Super Bowl home. And it's going to be interesting to see the leap that Trevor Lawrence makes. I have that as a win, but it's going to be it's a flimsy win. It's a fluky win, if you ask me.
It's a coin toss game because this is Doug Peterson's Super Bowl, right? This team ain't making the playoffs. This is probably if there's one game he has circled on the schedule, this is it, right? And so,
of course,
I do think Trevor Lawrence is going to continue to improve, and I do think that Peterson's aggressive play style will bode well for Trevor Lawrence, and that could be a game. Hey, I could see in the fourth quarter, Jaguars on the game-winning drive. Peterson goes for it on 4th down. Maybe they eke out a field goal. This game could go either way. I'll give the Eagles the benefit of the doubt here at home, but man, this is not.
And I'll be honest, that's the only reason. I'm really, because they're at home, and I think they have more talent overall. But it's really that home factor for me. But Dougie P, he's at home. You know what I mean? So he's, how much of an advantage is it, right? So we both have those guys. Both have the Eagles winning that game. That's a 3-1 start. Not bad. I think that's realistic. Now, week 5 on the road in Arizona. I know D-Hop is going to be suspended, but we don't really fare well in the desert, and I'm going to have to give that a loss as well.
I have on paper a loss, and I just told you how much better Jalen Hurts was than Kyler Murray. Right?
Hey, look, he might outplay him, but the defense may give something up. You know what I mean?
To your question earlier, does Jalen Hurts have to be the best quarterback in the East to win the division? No. And here's the deal: anytime you go cross country, whether it's Arizona to Philly or Philly to the desert, I mean, it's tough. It's a tough road trip. So that alone makes it a difficult game to win. Now, Arizona has a history of coming out the gates like gangbusters, playing really well in the early parts of the season. And then they fade down the stretch. And if history tells us anything, well, this is going to be a tough game. Again, probably a shootout, right? And I'm gonna have to say the Eagles lose here, which what are we putting them at? 3-2 through the first 5 games.
Yep, 3-2. Yeah, last time we played Arizona, it was a shootout between Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts had one of his most electric games in the air. He was just slinging it, and he had that will to win. But I think that's a loss. Unfortunately, I just think that Arizona, on the road, it's we're really going to have to really bring our A game to win in that environment. Let's go to week 6, Dallas. Now, this is where I'm always I'm fickle, because I would love for us to beat Dallas on Christmas Eve. I would love that, but on the road, Christmas Eve, I don't know. So week 6 at home, Dallas, I think that's a win for us. Because we're at home, and I think we're going to come out with something to prove on that day. What's your thoughts on week 6 Dallas matchup?
No, I agree with you. Like I said, I think they split. I'll give the Eagles the home game again on prime time, which is a big theme for the Eagles. 5 games on prime time, almost one third of their games on prime time, and this is going to be a Sunday night game in Philly. I think the Eagles get the job done here going into the bye week. Oh, by the way. Which would put him, listen, I've always loved to have the bye week later on in the season.
I was actually going to ask you about that. The bye week that early, it makes me uncomfortable.
Yes, because then you have a gauntlet, and actually coming out of the bye week, I've always preferred the bye week later on, especially for the veterans. But coming out of the bye week, it's almost like 2 more bye weeks, because Pittsburgh's always going to be competitive, but then they play the Texans, who should also be more competitive. But I don't see the Steelers or the Texans as playoff teams. So at least coming out of the bye week, I see 2 quick, and I'll even throw. Then they got Washington coming up again at home. I see them winning all 3 of those games coming out of the bye week.
Agreed. Yeah.
Which would put them at what, 7-2 now.
Yeah, yep, that would put you in secure, because you go into the bye 4-2, losing to Arizona and Washington. Then you come out of the bye with that's 7-2, Pittsburgh, Houston, Washington, because I have them beating Washington at home. Houston, we have Houston on the road. That's an interesting game as well. I'm not saying Houston is that good, but you're on the road. You don't want to get too caught up in the madness. Go in and get the job done and get out there. You know what I mean? You don't want to. At certain teams, you don't want to allow them to hang around. When you have your foot on their neck, you have to kill that demon. You don't want that to come back and bite you in your sleep. So I anticipate victories and beating Pittsburgh, Houston, Washington. Pittsburgh's going to play us tough, like you said. That defense is still what it is, but their offensive line is horrendous, and I think we harass whoever that quarterback is. Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky. Rest in peace to Dwayne Haskins. It's something to keep an eye out for. But overall, I anticipate 3 wins: week 8, week 9, week 10 against Pittsburgh, Houston, and Washington. Now, this is where things get tricky. Week 11. If I'm being honest with you, I have us losing in Indy on the road, and even beyond that, I have us losing to Green Bay at home. I think we suffer our first 2-game loser streak at that moment. I think we get fat over those first. I think we get fat out of the bye week off those 3 wins, and then we get humbled in Indy, and we get humbled by Green Bay. What do you think?
No, I have 2 L's on paper, because that's what we're doing. We're looking at it on paper, and those are 2, right. And those are 2 rosters that you got to say, as we sit here today, not only do both of those teams have a better quarterback, you can argue they might have equal talent throughout their roster, especially the Colts. The Colts are maybe the equivalent of what the Eagles are in the AFC. Like, the year that Andrew Luck had to suddenly retire, I had the Colts pegged for the Super Bowl that year. And then it's just been a kind of a QB carousel over the last several years trying to get it right. Is Matt Ryan now the guy? That remains to be seen. I think he can be. He might have lost a few miles per hour off of the fastball, but we've talked about the presidential presence that he brings to that organization. And I do think he might be a slight step above a Phillip Rivers at this stage of his career when Rivers went to the Colts. So I like Indianapolis. I think they're a dark horse in the AFC. I mean, you talked about the gauntlet of quarterbacks, especially in the AFC West. I think the Colts win that division there in the South. And then you mentioned the Green Bay Packers again.
That defense, man. That defense
we just mentioned. Yeah, and I think the matchup to keep an eye on here is going to be Bradbury versus Lazard.
Interesting.
Two big-bodied guys. Lazard is to me. If you're a fantasy football player out there, man, I want some of that Allen Lazard timeshare because this guy had 8 touchdowns a year ago as the number 2 or number 3. Does anybody know who's going to be the number 1 receiver on the Packers? I don't think anybody knows for sure. My money's on Lazard.
Sammy Watkins, maybe. I don't know. Not even.
Yeah. I'll put my money on Lazard. In fact, I think Rodgers had a funny quote the other day going from Hall of Famer. Yeah, that's a Hall of Famer. But
because was it Devonte over at over in Las Vegas? He said going from Hall of Famer to Hall of Famer, but. Well, Derek Carr, that was comedy, by the way. But
yeah, and then we can't forget about Christian Watson, this rookie out of North Dakota State.
I liked him. him.
I mean, he might be a one-trick pony, which is straight line speed, but we talked about it on Wednesday. So you can't teach speed, and that's a nice trick to have up your sleeve. I think that could lead to some big plays. He might not be a consistent name you hear like on a week in and week out basis in Green Bay, but I think Christian Watson makes some big time plays this year.
Yeah, he's a big body, man, and if he can get polished as a route runner, Christian Watson can be dangerous, very dangerous. A big body, a guy like Aaron Rodgers, he's going to find you. He finds you no matter how big you are, but he's going to find you, and he's going to throw those back shoulder throws to Christian Watson. He's going to get him every single time. Let's take it a step further. So right now we have the Eagles at 7-4, I believe it is. 7-4. Yeah, I think that's 7-4. Let me count those losses. 1, 2.
Yeah, 7-4.
Okay, so 7-4
with Tennessee.
Now Tennessee, I think that's a win. We're at home. They've lost AJ Brown. They've lost Julio Jones. This may be a hot take. I think Derek. I think we start to see the deterioration of the running back Derrick Henry. Now, and this is why I say this. He's been an Iron Man for the majority of his career, and last season we saw the chink in the armor. He has been the engine of that offense for the past few years, and the reason I think we start to see the deterioration because they lost AJ Brown, they lost Julio Jones, they have this rookie in Treylon Burks. They're going to put a lot of pressure on. Their offense is going to run through Derrick Henry. That's just an absolute fact, and they're going to run him to the ground, if you ask me. And based off when we play them, Week 13, who knows if he'll even be available? So that's my temperament in that regard. I have us beating Tennessee, so that puts us at 8-4. I have us beating New York and Chicago, so that's 10-4 right there. What's your thoughts on all that?
I agree with the 3 W's in a row there. In terms of Derrick Henry, it's interesting because you can go back to Adrian Peterson, who Jamal Lewis, who's the other one? I mean, after you run CJ2K, I mean, all these guys that ran for 2,000 yards, they never seem to. They seem to not have much gas left in the tank after that. They're all their careers took a downward spiral, and I'm not sure that coming off that injury, I don't want to say that it's the start of his downfall, but to your point, yeah, they're a lot more one-dimensional. They don't have those wide receivers anymore, and Tannehill took a step backwards. I mean, he was not the Ryan Tannehill that we saw the previous 2 years, and so. I hate to say it, but yeah, Henry, they're gonna stack the box against that team and try to let Ryan Tannehill beat you. By the way, Traylon Burks, who failed his conditioning test and blamed it on asthma. Come on, bro. Like you've had asthma your whole life. All of a sudden it's an issue. To me, Kenny Phillips, that 4th round pick out of UCLA, you know, I said this come draft time. I got another hot take for you. Kenny Phillips is the best rookie wide receiver on that Tennessee Titans squad, not Traylon Burks. Kenny Phillips, arguably the best route runner coming out of this year's draft. In fact, I studied all of his film, and even at the East-West Shrine Bowl, this was the most unguardable wide receiver, and it's all about footwork. You know, if you look at Hunter Renfrow, nobody expected that, right? Just remember, Kenny Phillips, that's a name to keep a lookout for. But I agree with you. I think they catch W's against Tennessee, the G-Men on the road up I-95, and at Chicago on the road, just because at that point, and I like the flashes I saw from Justin Fields, but by week 15, he's either going to be battered and bruised and busted up, or his confidence level is going to be so shot from running for his life, because that O-line, talk about a atrocious offensive line. You need a team that might want to trade for Dillard. Chicago Bears might be wanting to make a phone call there. So I agree with you. I think after the 2 back-to-back losses, they rally it up and rattle off three W's.
Yeah, for sure. We're almost running out of time here on the show. Let's just try to get through this really quickly. Week 16, 17, and 18. I have us losing to Dallas on Christmas Eve. I have us beating New Orleans at home because we just seem to have their number right now. Jalen Hurts seems to have their number right now. And then we beat the G-Men in week 18. That's my call. Lose, win. We finish the season 12-5. What's your thoughts on that?
I think that the Saints is the one game I go back and forth on where, again, I think it's a coin toss.
Understandable, too.
Right? Yeah, I think that can go either way. And I think they lose at Dallas. I think they sweep the G-Men. And that New Orleans game, I think if they do lose it, they could see them on the come around in the playoffs. And I think that's when they beat the Saints.
That's where they get them. Okay, I'll take that. I'll take that.
We're rubbing the crystal balls over here, looking into the future.
Most definitely. And you guys, we're going to take our final break of the show, and I'm going to try my best to do my one and only Jody Mack impression. We're going to put a bow on the show, you guys. Keep it locked, and don't change that dial. You're tuned in to Birds 365. He's Rick Saratella. I'm Tony Shields II. Let's get it.
Go for the polls and the pools. Go for the oohs and the ahs. Go for the bubbles and the bubbly. Go for the story and the stories. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Action News at 11 with Rick Williams. It's the team you trust to bring it all together. The stories that impact your community, a sports roundup for the locals, and the AccuWeather forecast you depend on. Action News at 11 with Rick Williams.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass. Free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. One free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. So good, it just disappears.
Eagles fans, welcome back to Birds 365 on JAKIB Sports. He's Rick Saratella. I'm Tone DeShields II, the producer behind JAKIB Sports and also host of Chalk It Up Sports, where no matter if we win or if we lose, we just got charged to the game. And Rick Saratella is always giving you that football knowledge, that football mantra at the NFL Draft Bible. Man, Rick, it's been a great show, and I couldn't think of anybody better to do it, man. I appreciate you for making it easy.
Hey, man, it's a preview of what's to come with the Playbook show. I know you're going to be behind the glass or the virtual green room producing my show as well, but I definitely, I already told Xander, man, we need to get Tone a microphone because he's going to be a big part of my show. We're going to incorporate him into the daily chatter, man, and no, buckle up, man. I don't know if Joey's going to drag me off of the beach of the Jersey Shore here and cut my summer vacation early again. I don't know if I'll be back before then, but August 29th, in fact, a month from today, I'm looking forward to it. I appreciate all the hospitality and the hate in the chat room. Big shout out to all the chat room peeps, and appreciate all the love. You guys, too, have a great weekend over there, and thank you for tuning in for the show. And great job out of our versatile Tone, the producer, jumping in the hot seat today, man. Great job out of you.
Hey, I appreciate that, man. You know what? I try to enter everything I do, with gratitude and ultimately just, trying to be myself, right? And I gotta give credit to, people that supported me, obviously family, friends, loved ones, my wife, but also gotta give credit to guys like Xander Krause, Joe Krause for, putting that battery in my back and just continuing to, motivate me and push me forward and challenge me more than anything. Shout out to guys like John McMullen and Jody Mack from, the originals, the OGs on Birds 365. Those guys are great as well. Shout out to the Sports Take team, Rob Ellis, Derek Gunn, Barrett Brooks, Dan Cilio at the National Football Show. Also shout out to our JAKIB Sports post-game team as well. Seth Joyner, Devin Caney, Mike Missinelli, and Derek Gunn. You guys do not want to miss that as well. That's going to be one of the biggest shows of the NFL season. Also,
at the Ocean Casino, by the way.
At the Ocean Casino.
Big shout out, yeah.
Like, let's be honest. Like, how many people can say that they can place their sports bets, watch the game, and also be live in person at a live post game show? How many people can actually say that's that's a vibe they're going to be on, man? Also, I want to give a shout out to our social media and graphics guy, James McKeith, man. He does a great job.
I saw him hanging out in the chat room. Absolutely. James does a great job, man.
Yeah, shout out to James, man. James has a great job, handling our social media, handling our graphics. James is one of one, man. Really appreciate that guy as well. Shout out to our partners, Ocean Casino Resort at Atlantic City, IBW 98, First Trust Bank, United Healthcare, 6ABC, Stateside, Urban Craft Vodka. Also, shout out to Major League Moving. There's so many people who want to get close to JAKIB Sports, and rightfully so. This is growing fast, and you guys should want to be along for this ride. This is something that we can't make up, we can't fabricate. You don't want to alienate yourself away from what's going on here. Be on the right side of history, okay? Because look, when the price goes up, the price goes up. It ain't coming down, you guys. I'm telling you, I mean what I say, and I say what I mean. But Rick, any final thoughts before we close the show out?
No, just big shout out to all the fans who tune into the show. As you mentioned, JAKIB Media is a growing entity. I've been watching the wildfire as you guys have been making waves, and the Derek Gunn story, man, is still living on and playing a life here in the media's role. But no, it's been a big 2 hours. I mean, time flies when you're hanging with Tone, man. So kudos, shout out to all the good folks. Like I said, Joe Kraus, Andrew Kraus, all the good folks behind Birds 365, and power to the people, man. The chat room is what makes this thing go. So I'm looking forward to getting live, getting interactive, and getting it on, man, next month.
Absolutely. And you guys, we appreciate it. It's all love. Make sure you guys check out the NFL Draft Bible on Rick Silvertel's Twitter. The links are available in everything he's connected to. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. And especially if you're watching this after the fact, we didn't forget about you guys either. Make sure you guys smash that like button, comment below, hit that subscription button. If you're new, hit the notification bell so you know every time JAKIB Sports drops some content. And I'll leave it at that. He's Rick Silvertella. I'm Tone DeShields II. You guys were locked on Birds 365 via JAKIB Sports. One love, stay humble, stay healthy, and most importantly, stay hungry. And we're out of here.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate, inside the locker room, and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.